Michael Casey, it took $900 to buy a Bitcoin last year. Now it takes $200. So why should I be optimistic about the future of this currency?
Well, it certainly hasn't been a good year for Bitcoin. At least last year wasn't. And you know, clearly the signals from that aren't positive for those who would see this as this currency that's supposed to be valued on that basis. But what we're trying to say in this book is that it's much more than that. And in fact, the currency is a bit of a distraction. And certainly there may have been a bubble in 2013 and that's now burst. But really what the most important thing is the underlying technology. This is a mechanism for payments. It's a mechanism actually even more than that for sending value around the world. And it's radical. It's completely different from the current system, which is centralized around banks. This is a decentralized system. And the power of that to actually change the way we do finance and actually the way we do commerce generally is quite profound. So that's why people are actually investing, not necessarily in Bitcoin itself, although people are now getting back into it, but actually in companies that are building products and applications on top of the Bitcoin platform. And that's really what the book's all about, and the most exciting part about it.
And who is using Bitcoin now, other than the Winklevosses? I know there's the new Coinbase exchange, which was launched this week. Who's using it?
Well, I mean, there are obviously a lot of early adopters who are still very enthusiastic users of it as a form of currency, who are buying things on. There's 50,000 different merchants that accept it. But let's be frank. I mean, there's not a large amount of the world's business that has done that. But I'll say it again. I mean, that to me is just one small element of what it is. I actually personally believe that the currency is going to play a role in the background. I mean, the idea that it's going to dislodge the dollar or the pound or something anytime soon is probably a bit of a pipe dream. It might, but it's really, and a lot of the early libertarians, I think, who would have believed that's going to be the case. I personally think it's going to be play a role in the plumbing of finance, so that big institutions might use it for procurement, for sending it around. The current users, therefore, many of them are actually speculators who are buying Bitcoin, perhaps on the Coinbase exchange, for the purposes of positioning themselves for this unknown use that it's going to have in the background of our economy.
But regular investors and consumers are not going to get in until they know it's safe. And there was a big scandal, Mt. Gox, where a lot of Bitcoins were stolen. So when will it be safe enough? How will we know when it will be safe enough for a person like me to jump in?
Right. One of the interesting things about Bitcoin is that it's open source. And so it has thousands, literally, of developers who are very intrigued by the power of this technology, who are working with it and so forth. One of the things that Mt. Gox did was to encourage people to develop new security around the key application that sits on top for the purposes of spending, and that's called a wallet. The wallets have become much safer. They've got these multi-signatory mechanisms that make it very, very hard to hack into. There are, of course, still stories of hacks going on. There's not a lot of, still not as much adoption as there should be of that technology. It's not a safe thing. There's vaults that are being created to protect people's personal keys. There's insurance programs for many of these things. Those sorts of programs, and also the fact that you're going to have third parties actually doing investing on people's behalf via ETFs and things like that, that's going to give people a lot more security to actually participate in this. And I think it's a very important development. But right now, the public perception is still probably understandably that it is a dangerous thing to get into.
And then finally, do you own any Bitcoin? Did you buy any for the research of the book?
Like all journalists, I am really good at buying at the top. So yeah, I came and I started getting interested in Bitcoin early in 2013, and I bought some not as an investment, just so that I could see what it was all about and use it at a couple of the events that I went to. And sure enough, it's fallen pretty dramatically since then. But that's really quite irrelevant to the way that I feel about the technology itself.
All right, thanks a lot, Michael.
Thank you, Greg.
And thank you for watching The Street.